follow your heart. You're never going to have all the facts, all the information that comes with everything, whether it's building a business or making an important life move. There's going to be an element of the unknown, and just betting on yourself.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Championship Leadership Podcast. We got Adam Jason with us here, coming out of Colombia. So thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Nate. Pleasure to be with you.
Yeah. I know you said you originally grew up in Buffalo, New York.
Yes.
Are you a Bills fan?
I am.
Okay.
It's been an interesting journey, a lifetime of fanhood that's not gone very far since the early 90s, but coming around.
They brought you close a bunch of times, and I know how that can be challenging. I'm a Packers fan.
Yes. That's easy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I can't cry too much. They have won a couple in my lifetime that I can remember, and but a lot of almost, but not quite. So. But I guess we're not here to talk football. So Championship Leadership's the name of the podcast. What comes to mind for you when you hear Championship Leadership? What does that mean to you?
Oh man, I guess if we're talking about the context of business, context of entrepreneurship, that's a challenge I think all entrepreneurs face, especially as they continue to grow their team. We can get kind of into different theories or how I approach it and the businesses that we're building down here in Colombia. But I guess, using the football analogy, I think leadership for an entrepreneur, a boss, leader of an organization is really a combination of that player, coach, cheerleader role. And I think part kind of kicking people and making them move along. So we can keep it in the sports realm if you want to.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself for the listener here today, not super familiar with who you are and what you're up to?
Sure. So as you mentioned, talking to you today from Medellin, Colombia. Been down here for 5 years now, just past the 5-year mark in January. My background is as an attorney, practiced for almost a decade in the U.S. in corporate finance, SEC, IPOs, public-private equity debt financing, really for Fortune 500 companies, Wall Street investment banks. Worked for 2 of the larger law firms in the world for that decade period before finding Colombia. From a personal perspective, I was kind of at a point in my career where you decide, and for those who are familiar with kind of the corporate America, law firm world especially, will be familiar with this. It's, do you become a partner at the firm? Do you go in-house for a client? Do you do something a little bit more entrepreneurial? And I always saw kind of the law firm world as an option for me, as a backstop if the entrepreneurial endeavors that I wanted to pursue didn't work out how I wanted them to. But fortunately, they have. So talking to you, as I mentioned, from Colombia today, 5 years now, I'm a partner with Legacy Group, which is our investment firm down here. We basically either invest in businesses that we find, or we build businesses that we see a market opportunity for. So our flagship business right now in Colombia is called the Green Coffee Company. Started the business back in 2017. Anybody who knows coffee has heard, and knows it's affiliated strongly with Colombia. And I think the best coffee in the world comes from here. Mm-hmm. But our thesis at Legacy Group is really connecting U.S. capital to opportunities in Latin America with a current focus on Colombia. See a real gap in the market for capital, and we see a high interest from primarily U.S.-based investors who are looking for some diversification, looking for some new industries, new markets that they can access. So our target client is really the U.S. accredited investor / high net worth investor. We have about 400 clients right now who have invested with us in the businesses that we have here in Colombia, and we've brought about $55 million to the country. So my background as an attorney is helpful because working with U.S. clients, regardless of the jurisdiction we're in, for tapping into US based investors, all the same rules of the game apply in terms of regulation, et cetera. So, that background helps, but then it gives me a chance to do the entrepreneurial things I've been looking to do from a business building perspective.
Yeah. Incredible. Love it. Who have been some people that have impacted your journey that you just talked about along the way, like some leaders, coaches, mentors, and what are some of the characteristics that really have stood out from those individuals as well?
Yeah, it's a good question. I grew up a football player, played football in college. I'd say definitely the coaches that I had along the way. Before becoming an attorney, I studied in undergrad. I studied education. So I thought I was either going to be health, phys ed, do something in the coaching space. Really grew up in a world where like everybody I knew was either a teacher or a coach. So those were the main influences I had. Obviously, my interests separated from that as I got into it. But I think that there's for business, you can basically find a sport analogy in it, and it works for anything. So I'd say kind of growing up with that backdrop has helped me from a leadership standpoint, being part of a team, understanding that everybody is depending on everybody else. That's critical, I think, for both working in an organization, but conveying that to the team and helping them understand that they're part of something bigger than themselves. All those lessons that come from that background, I think, are important. And then, of course, in the professional world as well, fortunate to have worked at two great law firms. So outstanding people who are at the top of their field. In that role, I was one-on-one often with CFOs, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. All those people, I think, have had an influence on me one way or another, whether it's simply learning how to communicate, learning how to handle yourself in a room with highly successful people who have their flaws, but from a professional standpoint, you can look up to. So I think, all those learning lessons along the way, and just learning by osmosis is important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have similar backgrounds. I played some college football as well, and
nice
phys ed major. And
there you go.
Today, I guess in a way, I'm definitely using the education background for sure, but not as a teacher. So
yes,
interesting. Yeah,
yes,
definitely. What's the vision for you and what you guys are up to, what you doing? I think championship leaders, again, football analogy, right? Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, these coaches that seem to, they're competing against the best in the world, and they're continuing to find a way to rise to the top every single year after year. I think a big part is the vision that they have and the courage that they have to take action on it. So maybe what's the vision for you? I always love asking that. And what's the impact you want to make through that?
Yeah, like those guys, we're trying to win championships. Coffee company, for example, our goal there is become the biggest coffee company in the world. We're already the largest in Colombia, about 1.5 times larger than anybody else here. And we've done that in 5 years. So getting to the largest in the world is well within the realm of possibility. Making a big impact for our investors. Want to kind of get them the returns that we've talked about so that they come back to us over and over again. And we can continue to be involved in businesses that we're excited about and businesses we feel can have a real impact. So our goal for investors there is $1 billion plus valuation and an IPO in the US, or a sale to somebody who sees the value that we're creating. So we're thinking big, and we want to do that with all the businesses that we either build or source here, but nothing small. Championships, not playoff games.
I love it. Not the world championships. Yeah.
Yes.
Who's number one? Who are you chasing
in the world?
Yeah.
Big producers in Brazil.
Okay.
It's not going to be like a Starbucks or name that you guys would know. Name.
Yeah.
No, not a household name. It's just huge producers who export a ton.
Yeah.
But right now, for scale perspective, I mean, the largest producers are about 8,000 acres, 13 million coffee trees. We're about 7,000 acres and about 9 million coffee trees in the operation. So we're not far behind.
Yeah,
we can certainly get there.
Mm-hmm.
certainly
Very
get
cool.
there.
Yeah. What's let's shift gears just a little bit and maybe think of a time where you had what I call like a critical moment, that fork in the road, trying to make the decision on which way to go. You did make the decision you had, which has you where you are today. But if you didn't, you'd be in a different place. I think there's just always a lot of listeners that are probably in that moment right now, trying to figure out which way to go. And it's always powerful to hear how the guests of the show have chosen those moments. So is there a time that pops to your head as I ask that question?
Yeah, I would go back to the decision of leaving the U.S. and coming down to Colombia. I think that was obviously a major fork in the road for where I am professionally, personally, kind of doors that have opened up. I would say kind of what I was going through mentally at the time was a little bit of a sense of, is the work that I'm doing on behalf of third-party clients meaningful to me? And it was hard for me to answer that as a yes. I felt the work I was doing was a little bit repetitive, and I was kind of building for other people when there was this opportunity out there to do it for not only for myself, but for investors who would come along for the journey with us and kind of everything that comes along with it. But I think the mental exercise was, what's my downside risk here if I take this risk, do something a little bit, I guess, call it contrarian and bet on myself. If I fall, what comes after that? And I think for most people, or at least I definitely did, at the outset, when you're making those decisions, you think about the worst case scenario and instead of thinking about potentially the most realistic. And what I've kind of gathered from talking with people since having made the move down here and tried something new and kind of gone down the entrepreneurial path is, if I wanted to go back to corporate America, I think for most people, they would look at the willingness to take risk and try something different as a plus, rather than, oh, why do you have this gap on your resume or something so silly along those lines. So I think it's a plus. I think it's important to follow your heart. You're never going to have all the facts, all the information that comes with everything, whether it's building a business or making an important life move. There's going to be an element of the unknown, and just betting on yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. What's as we start to wrap this up, what if there's one or two things you could give the listener that, principles or guiding points in their life, right, to kind of live by, if they were to apply today, would help move their life forward today, what might that be?
Yeah, mine would be that bet on yourself. Try to make an educated bet, just like you would if you're starting a business, picking a stock, deciding who you think is going to win the Super Bowl. Gotta do it in an educated way. But usually the worst case scenario is not what's going to come to fruition. Is my sense of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What would be the best way to check in with you? I don't know if you're on social media or not, or if there's a place that people could come and find out more about what you guys are about.
Yeah, if anybody wants to find me personally, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. If you want to know more about what we're doing from a business building perspective, or think about investing with us, you can find me on LinkedIn, or my email is adam.j@legacy-group.co. So anybody can find us there. We have an open funding round going on right now for our coffee business. So we'd love to have some more of the accredited high net worth investors come along for the journey with us and get excited about what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that. We'll get that linked up. And for the listener right now, if you've enjoyed this conversation, please stay right here for the next episode. Jason, Adam, Jason, appreciate you being here. And thanks for the time.
Thank you, Nate. Appreciate it.